there's going to be an onslaught into A2D. And similar situation like what happened in Burkina Faso, there will be a march to A2D. And we shall reinstate President-elect Issa Chiroma Bakari into his rightful place, which is Unity Palace, instead of being a fugitive in another country.
You're saying this with a lot of conviction.
Absolutely.
So you're telling our people that there's going to be a mass movement into A2D to unseat Paul Biya?
The momentum is building, yes.
Okay. Kenneth, I am praying for that, right?
Yes.
My worry is that post-election, this guy did win.
Yes.
And we don't see activities on the ground. And he's fleeing the ground. That already in itself is very troubling. So
you're saying he's fleeing?
Yeah, he did flee. He ran away from the country.
And if he would have stayed?
For his own protection, like you said, right?
What happened to Frundi who stayed and Kamto who stayed? What President-elect Issa Chiroma Bakari is doing is exactly what Adama Barrow of Gambia did and exactly what General de Gaulle did in France. He is ruling from outside. Have you seen Paul Biya ever since Paul Biya won?
What do you mean? I mean, the country is running. They presented a budget last week. What is governance?
What is that man's name? Motaze?
No, not Motaze. The prime minister was at the Star Building. We can't just dismiss these things as if Cameroon is completely immobilized and Chiroma is governing from outside. What exactly are you talking about? Hubert, let me bring you back into this conversation. I think you've been listening to us enough. What is your take on this conversation that is going on here? That there's going to be a mass movement. See, we are going to assault the Unity Palace and completely Cameroon is going to be taken out. Suddenly, Chiroma is going to govern from Gambia, something that he could not do from Gariwa. What is your take? Hubert.
This is bad. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, so thank you so much. I do apologize for the technical difficulties I'm having. I just hope this thing continues while we talk. And I really want to apologize to my senior brother, Ebini Christmas Doctors, and the other ones that's there, and Kenneth, of course. But this is the kind of trouble that we have with our political development in Cameroon. It is something that is very sad because when we look at the political landscape of the country, it is very clear that Chiroma and his party are the, should I say, opposition front leader in the entire landscape. And that's a laudable position to have. It is really sad that he's displaying this immense political capital of his by listening to people like Kenneth and the others that are telling him that he's got some kind of leverage in dislodging a president. in dislodging a president, don't laugh. In dislodging a president that has been killing his club, we understand this issue about legality and legitimacy is a street argument. The idea is that Cameroon is a young republic based on a solid constitution, which is anchored in international law. So the country has a new president that has been sworn in, and that is actually functioning as such. You see everything that's going on. Now, it's okay for post-election processes to still protest, to still continue based on the feelings of the candidate who lost. So it's fine for them to want to do their things, but to be calling for and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but to be sitting in a foreign land and threatening the peace and civil functioning of the country is an act that should be discouraged. It's not something that we take lightly, of course. Any good country would want to make sure that it's protecting its institutional integrity as well as its territorial integrity. And for Issa Chiroma to be declaring himself president somewhere, it's not right. Remember, that's what happened to our fellow brothers there who were picked up in Nigeria during the early days of the fight for Amazonia. So we have to be very careful. These things are things that are very difficult sometimes because I think he should have stayed. If he thinks that he's got the majority 35, 37%, he should have stayed in the country and fight. That's how they do it. But you run and go into a small country with a population that's half the size of Douala's population and begin to throw out these kinds of pronouncements is really irresponsible. I think he had the credibility to become an opposition frontliner. He can do collaborative politics. He can sit there and figure out ways for his people to gain power through the regional and local elections and then fight. There is no need to rush. If you think your ideology can sell and you have a vision that you think is credible, let time be your partner. Walk. Why is he running? I don't know that anybody wanted to kill him or to, but that's a different story. So it's just been a sad thing because he's wasted this political capital that was handed to him by the electorate. It was a very
Brado,
Yeah, go ahead.
if I may, Hubert, as usual, comes in and talks about Paul Biya swearing in. Matter of fact, Paul Biya was sworn in the new parliament building. Now, Paul Biya was sworn in as a president who stole the elections, who hijacked the elections. So when you get into legality and legitimacy, everybody there present knows that it is crystal clear, the writing on the wall. Paul Biya did not win any election. Even electors, as a matter of fact, Brado, we're developing what I could refer to as a house of cards, similar to what President George Herbert Walker Bush did in '92 with the Saddam Hussein in Iraq. One of the first people on those house of cards, I forget the name, but the guy of Elekam, Esuse, is that his name, Eric? You have Esuse Eric, who is the mastermind, frauded the figures, electoral racketeering on his part, frauded those figures, and then passed them on to the Atangana, the guy at the Constitutional Council, Clement Atangana, to read. Paul Biya can take his oath of office at the parliament. Consider that order. President-elect His Excellency Tchiroma'S Bakari will soon take his oath of office and start his nominations, and with the governors. And each and every governor will have to vacate wherever office they are in and be replaced by the nominations or even elections if we get into a gubernatorial process.
So these are practically hypothetical. Right?
Well, we are working on it. It's going to be happening very soon.
Dr. Ako, in October, Chiroma had indicated that he was not going to leave the country in whatever circumstances he was going to see. Dr. Ako, in October, Chiroma indicated that he was not going to leave the country in whatever circumstances, that the fight is in Cameroon. Are you surprised that he caved in and ran out of the country? And then now we are hearing his surrogates preaching from afar that the fight is going to happen on the ground in his absence.
Yes, let me say that I was a bit surprised by some of the other fellow guests on the show. I don't think just by adding His Excellency to Issa Chiroma's name is going to give him the legality of being recognized as president of La République du Cameroon. Paul Biya has already received congratulatory messages from some other foreign governments. So, from every indication, Paul Biya is recognized as president of Cameroon following that election. But let me say this: what's happening now is not new. Paul Biya has always done the same thing, and people have screamed and criticized and hollered in the streets, but the outcome has never changed. it's a breath of, or it offers us a breath of fresh air that Chiroma ran away. Um, and one of the other panelists talked about the reason why he ran was because of what happened to the two preceding winners of presidential elections in Cameroon, who were not Paul Biya, and what happened to them. So Chiroma, I guess, was being ahead of the game by fleeing the country and seeking exile in the Gambia. The challenge now is that once you do that, then you sit from outside and try to ask people who are on the ground, who have no opportunity to flee or to run away like you, to bear the cross of liberating the country. So I do agree with one of the other speakers. Chiroma should have been able to stand his ground, lead the people, march, the march that they're asking about to the Unity Palace or the presidential palace of La République du Cameroon. He should have led that fight on the ground. But if he believes that he can do it from outside, I wish him well. I actually take two issues with this conversation. The very first one is with the Gambia. Many of us who grew up in British Southern Cameroon, especially in Boya, we have friends. The Gambia, for instance, sent a lot of its citizens to the Pan African Institute for Development, which is located in Boya. It was one of the few institutions of higher learning. In other words, it was one of the few tertiary educational institutions that existed in British Southern Cameroon where our people could go to get a bachelor's degree or an advanced degree without having to go to La République du Cameroon or go to Nigeria. And a lot of people from the Gambia came to the Cameroons, specifically British Southern Cameroons, to complete their degrees right there in Boya, in what we used to call federal quarters, one of those areas that have now been taken over by people from the Republic. So we have friends from the Gambia, and I speak from personal experience when I say this. I'm honestly disappointed by the government of the Gambia. I'm disappointed because the government of the Gambia in 2019 jumped over the bodies of African countries like British Southern Cameroon when our people were being massacred. They jumped over the bodies of people in the Sudan. They jumped over the bodies of people in Nigeria, in the Congo. They jumped over the bodies of people even right next door to them in Mauritania. And they went all the way to Myanmar to bring a case in the International Criminal Court for what was happening to the Rohingya Muslims. And I feel like they put their religious identity, I know this is a conversation for a different day, they put their Islamic identity over their Africanness. And I take big issue with that. I also feel like the reason why they granted Chiroma the opportunity to stay there is primarily because of the fact that he's Muslim. Now, I don't want to make this a Christian versus Muslim issue. All I'm simply pointing out is my disappointment in how the Gambia has behaved because I would have expected that if they had to take a case to the ICJ, the case of British Southern Cameroon, because we share a historic bond, would have been the first thing that they could have done because they have the standing to do so. Not that they don't have the standing in the case of the Rohingya Muslims. In fact, in the words of Dr. King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So our hearts are out there for our brothers and sisters, the Rohingya Muslims. So what
Okay.
I'm saying is that the people in the Gambia could have used the case of Cameroon. That's one issue I wanted to make. And if I could make the second one, it is this. One of the panelists mentioned the fact that what Chiruma is doing, in other words, they made a comparison between what Chiruma is doing to what our leader Sisiku Ayutabe did in Nigeria, and that there were consequences for that. The case of Chiruma and Sisiku Ayutabe and some of our other leaders, they're very different. They're very, very different. British Southern Cameroon was colonized by La République du Cameroon, and so we're fighting an existential struggle. So we have a right in trying to restore our independence. We have a right to be able to do everything we can. In Chiroma's case, his country is actually denying the fact that he won on elections. So, like I stated before, he can fight with Paul Biya. However, he would like to contest the elections, he can do that. And I feel bad for him and his people that he cannot take it to court.
All
But
right.
in the case of the people of British Southern Cameroon, it's different. Thank you.
Dr. Ako, thank you. Sese Bini, let me bring you back in here. A lot have argued that Chiroma is a turncoat politician. We've seen this before. In 1992, he ended up being part of the same government and has been part of that government for the past 22 years. If you listen and you read through the lines from the statement that came from the Gambians, they said they're keeping him there on humanitarian grounds while they are talking to regional leaders on looking for a resolution of the post-election situation in Cameroon. Would his escape, because some have actually said the government of Biya facilitated his going to the Gambia. Could this be a smokescreen for negotiations to happen? Because they can basically be saying, oh, we're not negotiating, I'm not going to negotiate in any circumstances whatsoever. But his host government is saying they are talking to regional leaders on looking for possible solution to the post-election dispute in Cameroon. Are negotiations going on?
Let me, Hubert. I've been listening to you, Mr. Kamwa Hubert, talk as a CPDM member, and from what we've been hearing, CPDM members talk the way they talk and all the like. They don't come out as smooth as you are. I wonder how a man like you, seeing your country running down and all the things that have been happening, you would use your demeanor, your good personality, and your knowledge to be supporting all the evil things that are going on. You talk so smooth that anybody listening to you might believe. And here's the thing, I'll answer that question by saying that Gambia has received Tchiroma on humanitarian basis. And there seem to be some restriction to his stay in that country. I'm sure he cannot directly get involved in subversive activities. Can he?
I don't think there are restrictions. I believe those restrictions were in Nigeria. And Nigeria, as you know, is a little bit complicated when it comes to diplomacy. Yeah, so I doubt if there are restrictions in the Gambia.
No, they said that as long as the Zambian soil is not used to stir up trouble in a neighboring broader country.
Those are rumors. Those are rumors. But to the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware of any restrictions on His Excellency Issa Tchiroma Bakari.
So, the question that he is asking me, I think you can answer better because you give us guarantee as an insider that things are going to happen, right?
What was the just?
I think he was asking me whether Tchiroma would be able to do anything that is impactful.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. For example, MRC had to have their convention today, Saturday. They refused MRC from having the convention. Police or gendarmes, the military, have surrounded Maurice Kamto's house. His Excellency has made a press statement condemning that act and requesting the loyal forces to leave Issa Tchiroma's, Maurice Kamto's house. Yeah.
Can you retake that question again? Because I directed it to something to Kenneth.
What question?
The question you asked me before you went out.
I asked you about him being in Gambia. That is it a smoke screen for negotiations? Because the Gambian government has clearly stated that he's there on humanitarian grounds, but they are talking to regional partners. But if you put your political hat on, this is just essentially telling you that we are looking for a way to broker some kind of an agreement. And brokering that agreement, I think you would be sure that BI is not going to leave the Unity Palace. So it's maybe getting Tchiroma to get into the government.
In all fairness, negotiation is not a taboo. and it's not a wrong concept.
Definitely.
Even if it is for Chiroma to go and claim his victory back in Cameroon, there will be negotiation. It will be very terrible for him to be anywhere
Let me just
without going through some negotiation. Negotiation does not mean that he's going to give in or he's going to be corrupted, because that's the way we look at it.
Is Kenneth saying that it's not negotiating?
Well, let me just clear the air on one thing, please, and for our viewers and everyone. For some strange reason, people still are viewing Issa Tchiroma as a tactic, as a peon of the Paul Biya regime. And they seem to be saying that a lot of what he's doing is in pretense, it's part of a grand plan by the Paul Biya government, and so on and so forth. Let us just lay all of that to rest. There is no such thing. Issa Tchiroma Bakari was candidate and he was eventually elected. So he is the duly elected president and legitimate guy who should be ruling us in Cameroon today. They've been after him. He went to Nigeria, now he's in the Gambia. So from there, if we're talking about any negotiations, we should be talking just like General de Gaulle did with the Vichy government back in the day with Germany and France. We should be talking about Paul Biya vacating Unity Palace, going into retirement, or if he chooses, as I'm hearing, maybe even Gabon. And is the president-elect occupying the rightful office?
Hubert, let me bring you in here.
Hold on.
Tizoko, I think I gave you people time to engage here. No, he did not. I think I gave you people time.
You cannot take that away. This man has spent most of his life, or knowledge that we know about him, serving this government. And it's just a few months ago that he came out to be an opposition candidate. And we have known, and Paul Biya, the CPDM, has a reputation of multiplying political parties and opposition where they have satellite, CPDM satellite.
That is correct.
And
yes.
They have satellite political parties and candidates.
Tchiroma'S party was a satellite. Why are you
right,
talking
that's
about
right.
like even people are
No.
strange dummies here?
Please let us not, dilute the argument
We're
of
not
solely
diluting
the
the argument.
president-elect.
You are being evasive.
No.
Instead of facing what is facing
The
Cameroonian
president-elect,
people.
His Excellency Issa Tchiroma Bakari, spent about 7 years in jail.
And you are going back to prior 90. That's the problem
So-
that we always have here. That in no way negates his being part of that regime for 22 years. If you are going to tell people
Yes,
that
he was
in jail for 7 years, also tell people that he was part of that regime for
We are
22
not refusing
years.
that.
As a spokesperson of that regime.
Yes.
And as early as 2-3 months before the election, that's when, if he actually left the regime, you people have to allow people the flexibility to question Tchiroma's own credibility.
Negotiation too is not a taboo concept.
Yes, and Paul Biya should vacate A2D. He doesn't belong there.
It could be Paul Biya vacating.
Absolutely.
Or Chiroma negotiating to have some.
But if you're saying that there are no negotiations, if you're saying that
No,
there are
no,
negotiations, then the Gambian government is not telling people the truth, right? Hubert.
Ghana said that was a fake information. That was not true, that there were negotiations, right?
No, the Gambian government in their official statement said they are talking to regional powers. Talking to regional powers on looking at possible
Stability
solutions
to bring better
in the
yes,
country.
yes.
That is telling you that there are negotiations. They don't need to come out publicly and tell you that, oh, we are negotiating with the BR government. No, they made that very clear in their statement. Hubert, to go back to what Kenneth is saying, let's assume that what the Gambian government is actually engaged with now is possible negotiation with the Yaoundé on how to bring back to a certain degree of normalcy the post-election situation in Cameroon. Is that something that the CPDM government is open to?
Have the intelligence to make any pronouncement on that, Tabenyan. But just to be clear, I heard Dr. Christmas ask if what the Gambian authorities were doing was legal or not. And I want to categorically say here that the United Nations Charter, I think it's Article 2, number 7, it clearly states that countries should not mess in the or meddle in the domestic matters of neighboring or other countries, and that is something except for humanitarian or UN sanctioned interventions, which is very clear. So I don't know exactly who has given them that mandate to negotiate regarding a president who has been duly installed during an election process that was carried from start to finish in a sovereign country, Cameroon for that matter. So whatever negotiations or whatever things are going on, that is on them. The issue here is real politic. A lot of times, what we have going on in our small, young republics there is people are fantasizing about governing what should be. What we are looking at is governing what is. I know sometimes it's hard when you have a country that has been governed by one party for so long. It becomes almost as if it's impossible to get them out of power. And that is the dilemma that we are facing in our dear country. It has nothing to do with the fact that the regime is corrupt or the regime is brutal or a tyranny. It is just because we have been there for so long. I keep repeating this. It's very hard for somebody who has a small, tiny fraction of the electorate, the FSNC, which is Chiroma's party, to come into the field 90 days into the voting days and mobilizes enough to beat the CPDM. I just want us to be very clear. So when you know that this is logistically impossible, regardless of the fact that the CPDM also did their due diligence and made sure that the entire territory, including the diaspora, was campaigned for. So these are real things that happen. So I just want to say this to dispel the myth that Chiroma want to. It's very, I mean, I don't know, presumptuous to say that just because of the enthusiasm and the emotion and the energy that the hope of having another candidate or another uh, uh, candidate, I should say, become the president of the country. That was pretty exciting, and you see his power basically was in the two, the far north and the littoral there, just because of the high urbanization rate of the littoral Douala, especially, and his northern roots, and that's all he's based. But you have to understand the CPDM is deeply entrenched in the entire country. I'm not saying that there were no irregularities. I'm not saying that there were no, little things here and there. It happens a lot. But you have to understand, I want our panel here and just our listeners as well to really think deep on this. It is very difficult to come in the game 90 days with the little electoral infrastructure and resources that he had and beat a party that has been there for 4 decades and running very effectively to maintain power. I think if we think so much on that, then it gives us enough room to understand that Chiroma, if he was a real political leader, would have found ways to kind of collaborate and get into the political power structure, infrastructure of the country, and begin to climb from there. He has spoken that he wanted just a 3 year transitionary time. Well, then, so you are actually thinking for posterity, you are actually thinking of creating a political legacy that is very democratic. He could have come in and worked with the local powers that be, as imperfect as they are, to try to ascend, to build political power as they're moving on. So there is nothing that we gain in negotiating with him. He has no power. He has no authority that can threaten the running of civil life. The nomination of Maitre Alice Pom is just, I'm telling you, it's so deplorable. These are, these
Mr.
are just,
Noble, Mr.
No,
Noble,
let him finish his
let me
thought. Let
finish.
him finish his thought.
I had a lot of issues here to say, but
Let him finish his thought.
you know, you want to come across as credible in politics. You come across as somebody who has a lot of clout.
Doc-
You can you, you
Dr.
can do
Ako.
this to
Yes,
you
but
can do this.
Hubert, let me get to Dr. Ako. Dr. Ako, You can see with our brother Hubert, CPDM, true to its form, would quickly dismiss negotiations, and like he said, Gambia is what, about 1 million people or so. The mighty Canadian government came out and said they were negotiating with La Republique and the people of Southern Cameroon. And the Cameroon government came out strongly, forcefully, and repudiated the Canadian government that they did not ask anyone to negotiate on their behalf. And true to form, with same Western platitudes, Canada folded. That's one part of my question to you. The second part is Chiruma himself. I think he just mentioned Barrister Liscom. A lot of people have argued, even I know with veteran journalist Eric Chingy here in this studio, that Bia was facing senility, and at 92, there is no way that Bia possessed the reasoning faculties to govern a complex country like that. And I wonder why anybody would be comfortable that the first public action of Chiruma is to appoint an 82-year-old woman as a spokesperson, and not even to withstand that somebody who had gone to the Anglophone regions and asked for mercy, asked for forgiveness. His first public appointment, even though he's surrounded by top-notch people from the English-speaking regions like Bala and Eric Chingy, who are in the domain or public domain as regards communication, he appointed another francophone. What is your take on that?
Thank you so much. Honestly, I think Hubert has his finger right there on the pulse. Uh, he is the quintessential CPDM person. I listened to him very carefully, and he kept saying the party has stayed in power for so long. And he pointed out, accurately so, the fact that Chiroma started late, 3 months to an election. Generally, it's tough within 90 days to come in and upend an incumbency that's been there for 40 decades, right? But what I noticed is that Hubert did not say that the CPDM party or the incumbent has been winning elections for that long. He specifically did not use the word they stayed there because they've been winning or that the people wanted them there. So it's an entrenched machinery that will never leave power on its own. And the record shows that in societies where we have had the domination by a few over the majority, that if we do not create a valve through which the pressure can be released, in our case, the majority of the people that we know in from the Republic to Cameroon are in exile or they're fleeing their country. But at some point, the pressure in the country is going to bubble up, whether it's Chiroma or somebody else, like the Eastern European countries, or you take the case of the Congo, formerly known as Zaire, the narrative remains the same. We saw that in the case of Libya, and we may possibly see that in Rwanda if Kagame stays there longer, like probably as we expect. Because, like our African people say, even the best dancer or dancers have to exit the stage at some point.
But
Now,
Dr.
Chiroma,
Ako, Dr.
unfortunately,
Ako, let me hold you to that thought. The
okay.
best dancers are still in Riyadh. They have been dancing forever. They are in Qatar, they are in United Arab Emirates, and those countries are pretty much doing well. We should begin to get away from this idea that democracy is the best form of governance that is going to fit in every context and in every society. The Chinese are doing pretty well with that democracy.
Thank you. I like that pivot. I actually love that question, right? Because democracy, as it is conceived in the West, may not necessarily work out across the continent of Africa or all places in the world. But what you do have is a legitimate process in which your brightest, your best can rise to the top. So if you take the case of whether it's China or you take the case of the Islamic republics in the Middle East, whether it's Qatar or UAE, or the case of Saudi Arabia and the others, they have problems, without doubt. But the fact of the matter is that these countries have shown us that they can be able to put the resources of the nation at the use or for the greater benefit of the majority of the people within their respective countries. In the case of Cameroon, or La République du Cameroon, as I like to call them, so people don't get them confused with British Southern Cameroons, the fact of the matter is that the resources of the country are made exclusively for the use of a few. And so you end up with this system of government, the gerontocracy, if you will, in the case of La République du Cameroon, where a small minority and a subset of that very small group has absolute control at the exclusion of everything else. And what I submit to you, Brado, is that in cases where that has existed, maybe with the exception of Libya, for instance, that at some point, as your people become more affluent and as they gain more resources, that is no longer sustainable. So, but I don't want to go off on a tangent in discussing cases about why some countries are developed and why others are not. Let's go back to La République du Cameroon and specifically the case of Chiroma. I understand that the people of La République du Cameroon and some of my brothers and sisters in British Southern Cameroon are so hungry for change that they're willing to support anything that can give them a glimmer of hope. And so they saw Chiroma as somebody who, because of his experience in the government, they were willing to forgive the man for his past. And they were able to get the man so much, give him so much leverage. They said, hey, he can win. He understands the system. But what we're finding out now, Kenneth, with all due respect to you and those who support him, as Brado pointed out, the choices that Chiroma made, some of the people he's appointing tell us that he's cut from the same cloth, like his mentor, Paul Biya. The appointment of Alice as his key, his spokesperson, for instance, is one of such examples. And there are many others. There are many others. So the time has come when I think when the Chinese say you cannot make an omelette without breaking eggs, that's exactly what the supporters of Chiroma have to decide. What exactly are your plans to take control of La République du Cameroon? I know you're negotiating, the first question you asked, Brado, with the government of La République. You're negotiating through or with them through the government of the Gambia. And yes, even a good friend on the other side will not deny, or maybe it's of his interest to deny that they are in negotiations. We know they are, but La Republic has demonstrated over and over again that they will engage in negotiations not because they want to give you what you want, but just to stall. They will stall this until the momentum dies and Chiruma ends up a one-man team in exile, singing a song with nobody to follow him on the ground. So the negotiations, in my mind, will not lead to any significant changes. So the question now is, if Paul Biya is not willing to leave and your leader is in exile, and you're asking the ordinary men and women of La République du Cameroon to march to the people's house called Unity Palace, you're basically setting these people up to be massacred because we know how the regime reacts when people take to the streets. Although, to be fair, they don't kill their own as much as they killed my people. But we know that if they were to march, that they're going to HD, the outcome is very, very predictable.
Kenneth, let
Yes.
me bring you back just to pivot to what Dr. Ko is saying. That we have seen this film before 92, 2004, 2011, 2018, maybe 2008. And I think I pointed you that Jean Ping had the same scenario
Yes.
in Gabon in 2016. Same in Togo, same in Democratic Republic of Congo. And the outcome was as obvious as anyone could see. that the strategy that Chiroma is taking, there is no way that is going to get to a 2D. And fast forward, a couple of days ago, the military in Guinea-Bissau, one of the small African island nations between Senegal and Guinea, decided to upstage the proclamation of results of their own election. That election had the same scenario with Cameroon, that the major opposition leader, who was one-time prime minister, was barred from participating in that election. And then some other guy, Diaz, who was not even among the favorite, came from nowhere and gave the regime a run of its money. Still yet, the Bissau military felt that they were going to proclaim those results in favor of the incumbent and decided to step in.
Yeah.
Do the people of Cameroon have the backbone?
Yes.
Do they have the stomach
Yes.
to maintain the necessary pressure on that regime by what you are calling ghost town, sitting in the house and all of this stuff, without mass protests or some kind of activities on the ground or mutiny within the military?
Yes, we do in Cameroon. There is a notion that the flame, the oppositional flame, seems to have gone down. But we are still in that phase. We're going to rekindle it, and it is being rekindled as we speak. Ghost towns help to paralyze the regime, very much so. Payments that the Cameroon has to make to foreign bilateral institutions, some of those payments are already being stalled. We saw a letter from the Minister of Finance, Louis Paul Mutaze. They are not able to make payments. By the time we saw, and we're starting this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, in the southern Cameroon, it's been happening on Mondays for the past almost 8 years. The people in the rest of the French Cameroon Occidental, they're going to join us. Cameroon Oriental, sorry. They're going to join us. And we're going to go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The government will have no money. And then we'll now move into the final phase, Brado, whereby you're talking about all these countries. Brado, I can assure you, Cameroons have that metal, we have that wherewithal, and we are going to be on the streets like it happened in Burkina Faso for 1 week. And the march to A to D.
How can you say 1 week? You're saying that the ghost town is Sunday,
after
Monday,
the ghost town. The ghost town is just is what we call a chauffeur.
Wow. Are you?
Oh, yes.
I mean, I want us to take
It's
this
a
discussion
very
with
phased
seriousness. Sensei Bini, I want us to take this conversation with some degree of seriousness. I don't know whether Kenneth is living in another universe with us to really try to convince, each of us here accomplishing their own right, that the situation in Cameroon is something that you're just going to walk in, as what is explaining, maybe ghost town Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and you're going to cripple the government.
No,
the
no,
government
no.
has the endless resources to renegotiate whatever loans that they have. Guide you. They still have absolute control over those resources, that they can always mortgage those resources. And there are willing bidders that are going to come in. So to completely say that you're going to, because of economic divestment, you're going to cripple that government overnight, no, their budget has even increased from 7,000 something last year to 8,816.
You're really paying attention to those budgets in Cameroon.
I have trained myself to be a very good listener, even to people with whom I have disagreements. People should aspire to something. People should always keep the hope alive. I feel very happy that today we have this program here with a person who seems to be a great insider and is giving us assurances. Well, Kenneth is not far away from me. I see him almost, if I don't see him physically, we are together. And he's giving us a timeline. We should take it. He's telling us as a person, they're assuring us that Tchiroma is not going to go away. Things are happening and things are going to happen. Well, I don't want to doubt them.
Wait,
hold on, please.
Not to interrupt you. We took him for his word.
Yes.
Seated right there.
Yes.
That he told us that the government would not dare pronounce Biya the winner of that election. That the Cameroonian youths who are so now in the social media and so enamored and embraced will not allow that to happen. This is the second month. Things are getting to normalcy. So it is hard for you to ask that we should not question his position that this is what is going to happen.
We shall come back again here sometime, right? So,
Yes.
so I don't want to bother myself about that. We just saw this guy surfacing in Gambia, and we see a very vocal lady that he has appointed on the ground.
Yes.
Kenneth is here giving us assurance. Kenneth has been around for a very, very long time in this activism and in supporting presidential candidate. Your main candidate was Akarimuna, right? Barrister Akarimuna.
Right.
And he didn't proceed, and then jumped. All of us are jumping. It's just like in the 90s. Most of us who were supporting Frundi, Chairman Frundi, was not because we were members of the SDF.
Yeah.
It was because we saw hope and we saw a chance of change through him being like the vehicle that we use towards that change. I want to hold you to this. I am parting ways a little bit with Brado because I want you to make this pronouncement. Let people hear, see it is recorded, and then we'll come back to it sometimes. I was talking to you here about the projects. You said you were going to tell us some other groups that are involved in making this thing, because I am exposed more to Project C, and you said there are other. I know Union for Change include the Anise Kane and Jacob Chamini, who were arrested and locked up. Goes down, it's a good thing. It's symbolic.
Civil disobedience.
And anything,
yes.
the only weapon that Tchiroma has now is the mind of the people behind him and willing to get out there and ready for life or death to make these things happen. If he doesn't have that, the next thing that he might have to do, because they're going to attack him, is to play the Ambazonian model of self-defense, right? So they're attacking, okay, let's go to war, we go and fight it out. Is that gonna happen? If that is not gonna happen, that's gonna.
No.
Well, you talk about this government going broke.
Yes.
My goodness, since the 90s we've been saying that they're going broke.
And he himself
Every
is
time.
there.
That's why I don't listen to people like what is it? John Bakuro will tell you how definitely by this time they will have no money to do anything. They will not be able to pay.
That is just a joke.
But they have always survived. This government, I've always told people that once a country or a territory is a sovereign state, once it is a sovereign state, it can navigate its way through things
Absolutely.
easier than us now, like Dr. Akko said there about Ambazonia, which sometimes too I try to be realistic with things. We are Ambazonians, that's true, I'm Ambazonian here, but I'm realistic. I know that I aspire to getting Ambazonia, we don't have it yet, because La Republique is still controlling that territory called Ambazonia. So as much as I say Ambazonian things, I will know what is the truth and what is empty propaganda.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that in 1990, we went for ghosting cities for 6 months. It wasn't that one country Sunday on Monday.
The whole
It
week.
was Monday to Friday for 6 months. That is what pushed the hands of the government to call the tripartite. You remember that, right?
Not even giving up.
Yes.
They call for negotiations.
So I will tell you that the determination of the people on the ground, forget about violence, the determination of the people on the ground in rallying
Yes.
has always pushed this government into doing things. Tell you about the University of Boya. I'll tell you
Yeah.
about
Yes, it's cool.
The GC board.
Hubert, let me bring
So
Hubert.
are they able to rally the people on the ground?
Let me bring Hubert in before I bring Kenneth. Hubert, it seems if we consider what Kenneth is saying, that there is momentum that is building on the ground on some non violent approaches that they're going to use to bring the government to its knees. But a few days ago, I saw the budget and I'd gone through the 35-page document. Though a lot of it sounded repetitive of the same promises that have been made, but you can see some signs of progress in there. So I'm wondering, is the government ready for what, if at all, from their intelligence? Because the way they're going about things signals that, as far as they are concerned, the electoral process and the chapter for the 2025 presidential election is closed. And they are getting back into the business, what they say, of developing the country, even if a lot of people argue that. But they have pivoted to governing. But the question that people are also asking, what is holding them or holding the government maybe to form a new government coalition based on the realities that they witnessed during the campaign?
This is a very good discussion today. I wanted to make sure that we understand that the Cameroon government, in all seriousness, doesn't doubt the fact that they've been given the mandate to govern for the next 7 years. And that is what you see happen. So, and again, all this peripheral political activity are to be expected, but we can't will die out. That is very clear. We've had a long experience. Even Seseko, who I started reading his writings way back when I was a little guy back in the 80s. That man, he's just mellowed so much. I'm so happy because he used to be a firebrand. So things I'm telling you, that guy used to have blood in his hands. So things have calmed down, and we all have our hearts in a good place. I'm really wanting to make sure this is. I'm Anglophone trained, even though I'm from the Western region, so I share that culture. It is just that we have to understand. Leadership is the incarnation of the will of the people. In other words, you cannot lead in a vacuum. You cannot just come and declare ghost towns and all of that when it's not embodying the visions and aspirations of the people. A lot of times we make that mistake. We think because we have this rostrum of power, we can go ahead and say these things. You can say it all the one. I bet you tomorrow call Yaoundé or Douala, which are the cities of consequence, and you will hear that things are just going on as normally as they would because the people have not actually given that mandate to Chiroma. Unlike in the other northwest and southwest regions that you guys call Anza, which is part of our dear republic, there is some prejudice there because sometimes you see these things and that there is something there. That's why we keep trying to make sure that that part of the country remains part of Cameroon because there is something there, and we've seen how the government has tried over the years to make sure that that part of the country remains in the fold. But on this post-electoral thing that Chiroma is doing, I'm telling you, it's really just a shame because he had political capital that could have been put to use, and he's wasting it as I speak. If you look at the budget, and the budget is a governing instrument, by all means, it's very protocol oriented. In other words, after the president gives his swearing in speech, and the ministerial task force flesh out those issues that he raised and the swearing speech, and they are all put into numbers and passed through the assembly for ministerial execution. And that is a well-governed process, and that is how nations function. There's no There is no consideration of post-electoral crisis or bankruptcies or any of that. It's going to be that is too soon. Cameroon, as all developing nations, have issues with, of course, funding its operations, short term and long term, and it's all is ongoing. It is nothing new. But if you even see, I think yesterday or so, we had a nice big chunk of loan that came from the Islamic Bank to fund some of our infrastructural things there back in the nation. And there is many other things that's going on, and our partners are still with us, considering the challenges we are facing, and life is going on as normal. What I want us to know is that we shouldn't shoot ourselves in the foot. It is very clear, it's easy to come home, rally your forces, negotiate with the power in place to be a force to be reckoned with in the domestic political landscape than sitting up there and then throwing stones
Hubert,
and hiding.
you guys have done an electoral coup d'etat against the people of Cameroon. And what do you expect? You have declared war.
Dr. Ako, if Kenneth is saying that the CPDM government has declared war, electoral coup d'etat, but I'm going to go back to Chiroma. He's been sounding more and more like some of our amber generals with a flurry of speeches. Every day you hear a new, the president-elect is making a speech, and it's sounding more and more like Dr. Ayaba now. I don't know what to say, bro.
No,
Because
brother.
at the end of the day, I see the backbones. Look at what happened in Guinea, like I referenced earlier. Who would have thought that if Chiruma was really ready, that as of now, we would not have even had a section of that military say enough is enough, like what happened in the Guinea. Instead of all of these daily lectures on good governance, what he's going to do, they ordered their head veteran journalist Eric Chingi talking as if they were still in campaign. But election is over. How do we bring the people to the realization and acceptance that this process, as far as one party is concerned, the regime in Yaoundé, it is over? Meanwhile, the person who is supposed to bring pressure to bear to say this is not over is hiding somewhere out of the country and making all these speeches like some of our AMBA leadership.
Well, brother, I am a very hopeful man. So I would not like to squash the aspirations and the hopes of our brothers and sisters in La République du Cameroon. We actually are praying that they should succeed. In fact, we're praying that people like Hubert, who support a system that we know based on the recently released Canadian classified document that was floating around on social media, that even the Canadian government itself decided that, or someone within the Canadian government decided that they will not keep quiet. They were going to go out there and speak because the route that La Republique has chosen, instead of opening and broadening the tent to welcome more people in. So when Hubert was saying, work with the regime, make a change from within, a lot of people have tried that. But this is a regime that eats its own eggs. Nothing good can come out of the regime of Paul Biya. The current leadership is bent on making sure that the kleptocracy that they have created remains in power for at least the next 30 years. So when Bia goes, it will be Ngongo, and after Ngongo, it will be somebody else who falls within that same line of thought. So people have exhausted every reasonable means to get the regime out for those in La République du Cameroun. So we sympathize with them. And I also understand from the perspective of Dr. Ebini, we respect him, we look up to him, and he's seen the bodies. He knows where the bones are buried. He knows that if you're trying to change a system like that, it takes a long time. And many people will die and still nothing changes. So I understand why Dr. Bini is really mellowed because he doesn't want to see more young people die or get killed, executed, massacred. So,
So you mean
Mr. Nde,
you mean Kenneth is a little bit reckless and Dr. Bini is mellow, and is that what you're saying? And
no,
at
what
least
I'm
something came
saying,
out of the CPDM government. You are here. You are a sound mind. I think you can't just say nothing good came out of the CPDM government. Cameroon has a very solid diaspora because of the CPDM government. Created the
you
enabling
cannot
condition for
give
you people
credit.
to travel out of the country. Wouldn't that be something?
No, Mr. Brado, please, let's set the record straight. I'm not a product of the government of Cameroon. I'm a product of the ancestors and all my people of British Southern Cameroons who resisted the system and made it possible for others to follow their path. They left and went. My people voted for us to stay with Nigeria. They never wanted us to become part of La République du Cameroun. And although it ended up becoming what we know it is, a colonial occupation, let me just say this because I'm a hopeful man, brother. I want to end this thing on a very positive note.
Let me push back. Let me push back. Is there a historical aberration for you to say your people voted to be part of Nigeria? Was there another vote?
So the point I'm trying to make is that the voting, which we know was rigged, was not unanimous. So if you take the votes that came from British Southern Cameroons, right? We know that there were large areas of British Southern Cameroons that voted to stay as part of Nigeria. And then there are other areas that voted for a union with La République du Cameroun. That's what I meant.
No,
So
Dr.
I
Ako,
come
I
from that
think if we have
minority.
a platform like this, is to educate also the public because a lot of people from that region are also listening. Because it was the same forebearers of the Southern Cameroons who left the Eastern House of Nigeria and said they were poorly treated in that association with Eastern Nigeria and came back and formed a government in Boya. Isn't that accurate?
That's partly accurate. Let me tell you what really happened, brother. Our people did not want only the two options that were given to them in the plebiscite. Our people wanted a third option that was removed. We did not want to be part of Nigeria, and neither did we want to be part of French Cameroon.
Now that
We
is
had
different.
experienced the dangers of both. We wanted the third option, which was full independence. And there is, if you look at the record, there is absolutely no reason why our people were deprived of our own right to full independence when smaller countries like the Gambia, like Sierra Leone, like Equatorial Guinea, and many more were given the opportunity to stand on their
Well,
own.
Gambia, even the history of Gambia, Gambia was part of Senegambia, as
Senegal,
part of
correct.
Senegal. So apparently, it was after maybe some skirmishes that they ended up separating. It might end up with the same situation with Southern Cameroon, but for now, I want us to focus on. We might have that conversation on a different day, maybe an
Can
amber
I correct you real
discussion.
quickly, Brado? Can I correct you? You said it might. It's no longer a matter of it might. It will. The people
Okay.
of British Southern Cameroons will be an independent nation. It's just a matter of time. It's no longer might, may, maybe. Thank you.
That's Kenneth. Let me bring you back in here.
Well, Brado, Herbert has been very provocative throughout these discussions, unfortunately, this today. Instead of appropriately describing ex-President Paul Biya as racketeer in chief who engaged in presidential banditry of the elections, Hubert is rather lamenting the fact that we have a venerable spokeswoman in the person of Madame Alice Com. It is sad to see Hubert continuously engage in, all the, call it, in fact, he's waxing lyrical.
You can't hold him to that because even you here had dismissed the age of Bia. Why you at least cozy up to the age of Madame Aliscom? She's 82
I'm
and
not.
she
I'm,
looks
I'm not
physically
talking
tired
about.
too.
No, I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about. Paul Biya did not even know where he was. If we were to file a lawsuit against Cameroon, you cannot sue somebody like that for wrongfully taking the oath of office. He's mentally insane. You know? Anyway.
So these foreign governments that go there and meet with him, should we also hold them as accomplices?
Oh, absolutely. And we're working on that, by the way, at the international level. Yes.
Hubert, did you hear that?
Oh, we go a long ways. You know,
Yes. The House of Cards is being developed. Each and every one of these guys in government, and we're soon going to the ICJ. And a lot of these guys in government, and Tanganji Paul, all of these, Vondo Ayolo, all of them, we are working on their cases. Yes.
Who is we?
Well, the information will come out in the not too distant future.
So the we is not a. All right, we're going to do Sese Gobini, I think, closing thoughts. We are out of time.
Yeah. I was going to ask a man like Hubert, but you didn't give me the chance. If he sees nothing wrong, if he's a patriotic Cameroonian, if he sees nothing wrong with what has prevailed in that country since the days of Ahijo and now for 43 years under Paul Biya, whether that is the way he wants Cameroon to be. And I say this to him because he's a man, he seemed to have known me a long time ago, rightly so, because I was writing and publishing a lot of those days. But I've come, I told you even when we were traveling to Atlanta that I listened to completely this CPDM guy talking. He's a really knowledgeable and smooth talker about, it seems to demonstrate it. And that's not the issue. It's not about the CPDM. It's about us as citizens. The wishes and the aspirations that we have for our people and our country. And a person must be really immersed in evil for their eyes to be closed and their minds to be blocked, not to see what Cameroonians are going through, irrespective of their political ideology, irrespective of their political affiliation. Just like I said, it is not imaginable that at this time, citizens of La Republic, whether they support the separation of Ambazonia or not, or the independence of Ambazonia or not, could sit quietly and watch their government freely carry out the carnage, the slaughter, and the things that they have done on Ambazonians and be quiet. I am here as an Ambazonian, and I feel for the abuses that La Republic citizens are going through under Paul Biya. And as a person who belongs to a concept of exceptionalism, because I believe that our Ambazonianness has some exception, that you must be a quality person to understand it. I would feel the pain as we're sitting here that is being inflicted on another human being on the soil of La Republic by that government. And that's why we want that government out, because they're inflicting that pain. So I would say, Hubert, you're my friend, and Dr. Sana.
But again, Sese Beni, 1 second. Again, in as much as you want to hold the complete disregard of the people of French Cameroon to what is happening in the two English-speaking regions, it is also important to know that there are willing accomplices who are even more evil than the people of the French-speaking part of the country, on both sides. So we have to be very careful.
I think I'm addressing that. I think Dr. Asana is a long time. I always see, you're the man who is always posting the Bank of Ambazonia, right? Dr. Asana. And you and I were on a call with Senator Van Hollen's office. I remember sometime way back, and I don't think this is the first time I am actually putting the face to the name.
Were you not sitting right close to him in Atlanta?
Really?
Look at this guy.
Okay. Anyway, let us say this. No, you told me that later on when we left the hall. That's
No, 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 no. We sat the whole time.
okay. So here is the thing, and my dear friend Uber, this is not a joke anymore. It involves people's lives. Bia has done this thing for 40 something years, where our people come and express their aspirations. They make their choice of candidate or the person they want to be their leader. And in the face of everybody can put their finger on the rigging process. Bia stayed in power by using the military to intimidate people. This time around, I would expect citizens like you to rise up even against your own CPDM gains and tell them the truth and say, no, this thing cannot continue. We are not building our country like that. And so I will be talking to you, Gilbert, on the background. On this, I am still pushing for Kennedy, a part of your program that you're doing. You guys are pushing, you are going to big places. Please do include the unconditional pressure to release for a ceasefire on Ambazonia and for a total and unconditional release of our leaders who are being held in the prisons, and that includes Seseko and his cabinet, Seseko Julius Ayuktabe, who turned 60 in prison, and for all our citizens that are being held, innocent citizens that are being held for more than a decade
Let's
in
move.
prisons all across the country. That has not ended. I was on that during the elections. I'm continuing on it. You guys are still relevant to talk about that. If you're talking about that too, that is part of the pressure. You cannot release them, but you talk about it. Is the pressure to put on, to bear on the evil people who say they are ruling the country.
Dr. Ako, let me bring you for your final thoughts. But to tie that to your final thoughts, recently there have been rumors that Ferdinand Gongo had sent a delegation to the leadership of Southern Cameroons in Kondengi to meet with Seseko Julius Ayuktabe, and the delegation was rebuffed, was rejected. And there was supposed to be a delegation here in the diaspora. Pretty much, we are not sure, but I think that the government of Cameroon, as of now, whosoever is in power is President Paul Biya. Whether we agree with that or not, they are the unity palace, meaning that the instruments of governance is in their hands. Should they take the message that Chiroma had embraced to release the political prisoners unconditionally at this time, given that that was a very powerful message that resonated with majority of the people from that region, and if they had 100% as a claim in those two regions, should this time be the time for them to release the prisoners and engage in genuine dialogue in addressing the root causes of that crisis? Dr. Ako.
I'm honestly humbled by that question, and it moves me personally because, as you're aware, while we always say that our leadership is in detention in La République du Cameroon, and we call the names of Sisiko Ayuktabe and his cabinet and the others, there are countless men and women from British Southern Cameroon who are wallowing without any crimes that they have committed, but simply by virtue of their being people from English-speaking Cameroons, they were scooped up, locked up, and in many cases, members of the regime have tried to extort their families. But these individuals have no means to compensate, to pay. so that they could be released. So your question about what should this new government of Paul Biya do is quite a humble one. And there are two ways that I look at it. Being a hopeful man, I'd like to say I am hopeful that Paul Biya, who considers himself a Christian and a Roman Catholic, especially under the leadership of Pope Leo, the new Pope that we have, who has called on all governments across the face of the earth to listen to the cries of their people, to be more merciful, in the words of Pope Francis, that Paul Biya, as a Catholic, will look deep into his Catholic faith and say, okay, this thing has gone on for a while. Maybe as part of my legacy, let me absolve or maybe excuse these people for whatever crimes they may have committed. We grant them clemency and let them be released. He could do that. Or he could call for some kind of formal discussions. Like Hubert was saying, if this is an internal affair, then let him take ownership, start a discussion with a section of his people, and try to get the issue resolved. That's my hopeful side. Now, Hubert also talked about real politics. From a very pragmatic point of view, I think that nothing good can come out of this government. I don't see in them the ability of their own, meaning that they could sit there in Yaoundé and willingly decide that let us make peace with these people who came into union with us. I don't see that coming out of them. And I'm not saying that out of malice. I'm saying that based on the record. You know how to say, in order for you to be able to make a finding, you have to look at the record, you have to look at the data. The data from over 40 years of being in power does not give us any evidence that they're capable of doing what I'm trying to ask for. Therefore, it leaves us with just one other option. And that option is where somebody like Mr. Ndei comes in, the Gambia, the allies, the people of goodwill all across the face of the earth. If they can come together and bring pressure to bear on that government, that is the only area where I see the difference coming from.
Thank you. Hubert, I would direct that question to you. Recently, there have been rumors that Ngongo had sent a delegation to Konengi to meet with the Siseko Julius Ayoktabe, and there was a delegation that was supposed to come here in the diaspora, but as of this moment, that still just remains a rumor. Should the government of Mr. Biya do some sort of clemency, as Dr. Ako is saying, as a gesture of goodwill, to release the political prisoners without any conditions and engage in genuine dialogue? Because I know you've acknowledged that there are problems, and some of these problems could be addressed internally. And to start addressing these problems internally, I think it is but appropriate and a call to his own conscience to release these political prisoners.
Again, just to echo the thoughts of my fellow panelists, nobody wants our credible sons and daughters of this country to be locked up. You know, it's something that we all decry and we hope. I just wish it was better than just what we have been experiencing so far. But I want to quickly point out that it's not just political prisoners from the Anglophone stock. We also have a lot of prisoners there that are coming even from the president's hometown. So there is not a bias in that regard. But let me just make sure you understand. Presidential pardons and clemency are things that are very Republican. They can happen, right? But there is a protocol, there is a procedure behind the scenes that leads up to these kinds of decisions from a president who might just decide to be magnanimous. And it's okay, we hope for that as well. The thing that is not going to be negotiated is if that action of clemency or presidential pardon jeopardizes the security of the state in any shape or form. That's why all this stuff is principally done behind, the diplomacy behind the scenes is to make sure that there's a give and take there that it's a win-win for everyone. So I don't know, I don't have any inside intelligence and that kind of thing. But what I can tell you is that the government of the Republic of Cameroon holds each and every one of its citizens as dearly as you can imagine. And there is no nation on this earth without prisoners. It's just part of the business of running government. I understand the political ramifications that the uh, the imprisonment of some of our leaders from the English regions have on the populations. And I don't know, it might just be a good gesture. Sometimes presidential pardons don't have to be justified, though. It's just a gesture like that. But what we are saying is that it has to be a win-win. In other words, the release of these prisoners should in no shape or form threaten the security or the peaceful nature of the country. That is my take to that. I also wanted to kind of make sure that we understand. Really, Siseko, addressed me in a very friendly way, which I appreciate. And I have always had a search of conscience, deep search of conscience regarding the politics of our country. That's why I'm so passionate about it. And usually you want to look at the supreme good of the state. In other words, you measure and you put the two alternatives that you have in the balance of your conscience and see which one is really working for the greater good. And to be honest with you, despite the imperfections of the members of our present government and the CPD on party, there is no telling what can come after. This is why you see I talk about real politics a lot because the alternative. Look at what happened in 1992. Fundi and the SDF came up strong and they gained political clout and they mismanaged it. Look at how Joshua Oshie was showing in this recent election. This tells these people are not ready. Look at even the uprising that happened in the Anglophone regions, where there was a momentum that could have led to whatever. I am personally against any of that political adventure there, but we were surprised by the fact that they put up and they still continue to do in some regards. Look at what it has led to. So the idea is you measure two things. You look at two alternatives, like which one is the best for us to maintain at least l'intérêt supérieur de l'État, because the government is bigger than all of us, bigger than Probia, bigger than me, bigger than everyone else. But the nation of Cameroon and that institution of state remains sacrosanct. It is something that serves the greater purpose of all Cameroonians. So I may not sound, I may not look.
We're
I'm
running
not
out
an
of time here, but thank you.
I'm not an evil person for supporting the CPDM, but it's just a matter of conscience. And I have seen that they are the only ones who can drive this train of state to station without unnecessary collateral damages.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Kenneth, your final
Thank
thoughts.
you, brother.
Again,
Thank you.
I'm going to
I'll
mirror your
make it
final
brief.
thoughts to the rumored outreach to the release of prisoners and the supposed mission that was sent out here or was to be sent out here to engage with the Amazonian diaspora. Um, Practically, and a lot of the messaging from Chiroma during the campaign was focused on releasing the political prisoners and engaging in a genuine dialogue to address the root causes of the situation in that country. Uh, Now, imagine that Bia comes in, steps in, and takes that mantle by releasing the political prisoners and calling for genuine dialogue. Is that something that you think that he could undermine Chiruma's message?
I mean, we cannot be talking in terms of the ex-president of Cameroon, Paul Biya, having any type of a genuine dialogue with Cameroonians. That is an impossibility. This government has shown us who they are, their true colors, in all forms and shapes throughout the years. But let me just come back to his president-elect, His Excellency Tchiroma Bakari, who during his campaign, he traveled to Bamenda, he's talked to Chris Anu and the Ambazonians. He's made it clear he's going to release the political prisoners. It's part of his agenda. And as a member of Project C, let me use this opportunity to say one or two things to the extent that this is really the only opportunity we have as a people, as Cameroonians, to put somebody at A to D whom we have chosen. In 1960, France got rid of André-Marie Bida in East Cameroon. They put in a puppet, Amadou Ahidjo, and then this guy we have there who has been there since 82 has been a continuation of those Louis Paul Ojula people, and these are people who are subservient to French interests. In fact, he called himself Meilleur élève de François Mitterrand. As Project C, what are we doing? We're starting with the ghost towns. This is the first phase. The second phase of the ghost towns will continue until such a time when, as momentum builds up, then we have the onslaught to
the Project C was supposed to be non-partisan.
Yes, it is non-partisan. We're bringing together a lot of civil society groups and all people from walks of life
it's a little bit confusing?
who are against the regime. I'm sorry?
You realize it's a little bit confusing, or there's a misuse of that word non-partisan?
Project C is non-partisan. It's not a...
And all your plan of action is to...
It's made up of a lot of individuals,
It's not
civil
about
society
individuals.
groups,
What is the mission of Project C?
to restore sovereignty and dignity to the people of the state of Cameroon.
And that would be aligning with Tchiroma, right?
That is whom we voted.
But then that should not be non-partisan.
It is not
I just wanted to
partisan.
make that correction.
Oh,
Go
yes.
ahead.
I'm sorry if I insinuated in any way, form, or shape that it's partisan. No, it is not. Part of Project C, this Sunday, tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday, we're doing to adopt a Ben Skinner. We're asking for donations, just $10. That's it. You adopt a Ben. Imagine if we all go online, which is part of the program of Ghost Town. We go online, we make simple donations of $10. More than 10,000 people who go online, just a donation of $10. Imagine where we will be. We will bring down that regime in a heartbeat.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
As you're talking, representing, do I come across as disruptive when engaging people to you?
Where is that coming from?
I mean, you've known me for a long time.
The camera is this way.
Yes, no.
We may disagree on things, but do I look like somebody when they're doing serious things that I'm disruptive?
Oh,
No.
Okay,
No,
Sissoko, I
that's
think
a
that is going with your Project C people.
no, it's
let me let me wrap up. Maybe we can have that conversation. Let me we would get that. Okay, we ran out of time. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Hubert. Thank you, Dr. Asana. Thank you, Sissoko, Dr. Chris Mosebeni. Thank you, Kenneth. This is the Spotlight on Media to Africa. All of the opinions expressed here are those of the participants and not the editorial policy of Media to Africa. But if I want to pitch in as a final thought, it would be my appeal to the authorities in Yaoundé for an unconditional release of all the political prisoners in Kondengi, and to engage in genuine dialogue to address the root causes of the problems in that country. We cannot continue with this level of intransigence that has characterized this crisis for the past 9 years. I don't have a fight to pick. I would go whether it is Gongo who is going to release them or Tchiroma who is going to release them. I am not going to call our people to be put in a binary situation. It's either you're following Tchiroma before they will release them, or you're going to follow Biya for them to be released. It is a call to the conscience of the people of Cameroon that these people demonstrated a genuine desire to protect the aspirations and justice for their people, the subjugation of their people for the past 60 years, is a genuine concern that requires people with some conscience and honesty to say enough of this. So Hubert is not an adventurous political exercise. It's a serious problem that goes to the root cause of what is happening in that country. And it would behoove all of us to try to address that cause and avoid looking at the symptoms. I think this is the time, after a political exercise as the 2025 elections, the doors have closed. It is a need for us to look at ways to begin to address some of these vexing issues inside that contraption called Cameroon. So, as somebody who has been at the forefront of activism towards the recognition of the people of southern Cameroon, it is very, very important that our people should understand that we must not be put in this binary position where it is Chiroma or Bia. Whosoever is going to address that situation as of now, regardless of the history, I'm not going to absolve Bia of the atrocities committed, neither am I going to absolve Chiroma of those atrocities just because of mere utterances that they're doing at this time. But it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we continuously engage or put pressure on the regime or even the opposition to put the message in that these people do not belong in prison. These are people who can also contribute to the liberation of that country and the development of that country. So once again, thank you all, and thank you to our viewers. Thank you to our technical director. We had some technical difficulties with having Dr. Aki of CSC, another sovereign civil society organization that is working, I think, together with Project C to bring some momentum towards the liberation of Cameroon. But irrespective of whatever political affiliation that we each wear, the most important thing is to always bear in mind what impact it has on the people who are downtrodden, the people who has been disillusioned, people who have been left behind, the underprivileged of that country. So again, thank you.